The next image is something a little bit different, and it is electric. So tell us what we're looking at.
Well, I chose this particularly because it is electric. This is coal haulage. This is in Queensland. You can see the QR national logo on the front there. And it is narrow gauge. It's 1067, which is in fact Australia's most extensive gauge, largely because of Queensland. They have phenomenal coal reserves in Queensland, particularly also in New South Wales to a lesser extent, but primarily in central Queensland. And a lot of the railways, these are built on the government network, so they're not privately owned. They are extensions of the pre-existing narrow gauge network, which not all, but much of it is electrified at 25 kilovolt AC overhead, specifically for the purpose of hauling coal to the port. And we're talking hundreds of kilometres.
Yeah.
A trip, haul it east to the Queensland coast, places like Gladstone, and it's a different Gladstone to the one we spoke about, and Hay Point and so on. And they are quite impressive operations. Of course, the future of coal, well,
quite. Ideally, wouldn't exist as a function at this point.
That's right. But it is again one of Australia's major sources of export income. And these trains are an impressive operation, particularly narrow gauge.
Yeah, it's staggering that it is narrow gauge. Yeah, as you say, the thing that people don't often realise is that whilst India and China are perhaps burning the majority of the coal on the planet, Australia is the one giving them the coal in the most case. So Australia bears an enormous responsibility for current carbon emissions in the present day, although not if we look at cumulative emissions, but certainly major output. And then this raises interesting questions like, what are the finances of the railway should it disappear overnight? What are the finances of the country? Should it disappear overnight? How upset does Rupert Murdoch get if the coal disappears? Questions of this nature. But from a railway operator's perspective, it's an interesting, it's certainly an interesting operation.
It certainly is. And indeed, a good part of the North Coastline, which is the coastline from Brisbane up to Rockhampton, is also electrified. It was electrified in the 1980s at much of the same time that this was being constructed. But unfortunately, it's lying, whilst it's a busy railway, only one electric train per day uses it, all goes to diesel. And we're talking, I think it's about 600 to 700 kilometre distance under the wires, which is quite amazing. And the locomotives are there, but quite honestly, I don't understand it. It's something to do with access charges to the current supply. And
I mean, not a dissimilar story that we've had going around in circles in the UK, actually related to power energy charging and moving back to 66s away from 90s and questions of this nature. Yeah, frustrating. So, and then we get, now this has to be instantly. This has to be a sugarcane train, right?
This is a modern day sugarcane train. There are actually thousands of kilometres of sugarcane sugarcane railways in Queensland, all in Queensland, up the coast of Queensland. And these things have traditionally been hauled. The harvest has been hauled by tramway, these little tramways, which form an impressively dense network around the sugarcane growing areas of Queensland. And you might think that they're a bit of a historical anachronism. Well, they're not. That's a new
absolutely.
And that's hauling what looks, I don't know how long it is, but it looks to be a reasonable load there. Yeah. And I'm not an expert. I'm no sugarcane farmer or certainly not any sort of farmer. But my understanding is that the logistics of the tracks are there. This is a very wet climate, which would be challenging for any other form of, trucks getting bogged.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
So whilst it looks kind of a little bit anachronistic, it's not going away anytime soon. And and there are many of these, and some of them go 50 kilometres from farm to crushing mill.
It's interesting. It's the situation where that, as you said, the combination of climatic conditions of scale of operation mean that the road, road haulage, individual motor haulage has not broken in the way that the economics didn't quite break in the same way they did for most other forms of goods movement. And it's good because now we're at the point where you'd struggle to make the case work to strip this away and go for HGVs. It just wouldn't work, actually. And so now we're in a much more, with broadly a more sustainable view. The industrial carriers, putting to one, I don't know much about other working conditions and other such things. Sugar always brings to mind certain connotations, but seeing this is a modern operation and one that couldn't be absolutely be run sustainably, right? So
there are a couple of road only serviced mills, I believe, but they are very much in the minority.
Interesting, yeah. Okay,
they're the smaller ones. So.